Hi there, I'm Mr. Mark. Today we're going to be making an air dry clay bowl. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the air dry clay is like, and then I'm going to just jump right into it. I'm going to get a start on it. I'll probably make mine a little bit bigger, so I probably won't finish. I'll just get the start on and talk about the basics of doing the air dry clay. And so let me show you what we got here first, and then we'll get into it. So I'm using air dry clay as opposed to the kind that you bake. So it's a little bit different. So you want to look at that when you see it at the store. You see the box here. It says air dry clay, and there's different brands of them. I decided to get. My daughter likes to do this, and I like to do this as well. So I got a bigger thing of it. And over here it says it's terracotta. It also comes in white. And because when it dries, you can also paint over it whatever color. I just tend to like the terracotta a little bit better. I like the look of it, because that way maybe I won't want to paint it. I like the color of it. And it's this is the big bag of it. I'm going to get into that here in a minute. And because we're doing clay, we're going to be making a little bit of a mess. So you want to have something down on your work area. I have a clay mat that I use, but you can use anything. If you have a little sheet of plastic will work, trash bag will work, something like that. You just want it to be fairly flat and have a good flat surface to work on and have lots of space. You also want to have some water, because you're going to be wetting your hands, and just smooth it a little bit. That always works. Have that with you. And I have some mini tools here with me. I don't know if I'll be doing any with this today, but you might need it with chopping or doing any kind of detail work. And this is a little roller. If you're rolling it flat, mine's going to be a little bit thicker, but if you're doing something thin, you might want to have that with you. And these are fairly cheap. You can also use, any other thing to roll it. You can use a plastic knife you get for picnics. Those work just as well if you don't have fancy tools. And it's good to have paper towels or some kind of towel, because you might get into it and you want to wipe off your hands and get started on another project. That's great too. And lots of space. And this is a simple bowl I made the other day. I'm going to do something a little bit smaller today, but I'm going to add on to it. And it's just like something you can put your coins or your keys in, and I'll probably paint this at some point as well. And it's a little bit rough, but you can make it smoother, spend whatever time you want to. My daughter made this heart-shaped one, and she's going to paint it sometime too, and she's very smooth, and she probably used the tools on the top or wet her fingers to get that very smooth and really work that and take your time with it. And as far as how long they take to dry, takes a little bit longer depending on how thick it is, but always, when you're getting them to dry, put them in a space where they're not going to be bothered by anything and where you can just keep an eye on it. And remember, they're going to dry and they're going to look a little bit lighter than the color of the clay once they dry. Okay? So let me get some clay here and get started. And like I said, I'm just going to do the basic getting started here, because you don't want to see me make this whole thing and working at it. But I'll just start working at it. And this is very soft, so it's always good to keep your bag sealed so you can have it soft and work with it. But if it's a little bit hard, you can always work in some water as well. And I'm going to start shaping it, and I'm going to start trying to make it more round than the one I showed over there. And that's when I actually started a little bit round, and I started thinking, oh, I'm a little bit wider. So I'm trying to work it into a circular shape, and I'm trying to build up a little bit of the walls. And then, of course, we want to use our surface, because eventually your bottom there's going to be flat. So I'm using my thumb, working it in there, getting it flat. Then I'm going to start working on my walls. And sometimes it just starts to take a shape and you think, oh, I like that. Or you can always manipulate it and move it around. So right now I'm just working the walls around and making it how I want it. And you push them together if you think one's a little bit thinner than you want. And now's where I want to start using a little bit of water, because I want to start smoothing it down a little bit, because I want to see the shape of it. And like I said, you might be better at this than me. Take your time. It's always good to see, put your own personality, your own little spin into it however you want. And you start smoothing it out. You might get one wall's a little thicker than the other, and then you just start squeezing from the thicker wall to the thinner wall. And now I'm going to start pinching a little bit. And see what I'm doing, I started with the walls being very small, now I'm starting to build them up. And I'm starting to like the shape of that. And if it starts to go out to the side a little bit, I just pinch it in a little bit more. And that's starting to take a shape that I kind of like. Now I'm going to show you about building up the walls. Now that's about as tall as it can go without pinching it a whole lot. But then what we do, let me get a little piece off of here. And you can always use the roller if you want to make it smoother. I'm just using my hands for now. I'm going to take a little piece And say I want this one to be a little taller. So I'm going to start adding this piece on. Looks like a little bit like a rope. And I'm just going to start smoothing it down. See that? So I'm building the wall up by adding a piece on. And then I'm going to go back in a minute and smooth that out with a little bit of water. And this part looks a little bit low there, so I'm going to start working on it. Yeah, and I'm liking the shape of that. And then I'm just going to start taking these pieces and making them a little smaller. I'm going to start making them like ropes. I'm going to add it in. I'm going to build that wall up a little bit at a time. And then I'm going to keep pinching it so that it stays looking strong there, so it kind of keeps its shape. And I'm just going to smooth that in a little bit. And it depends on how rough or how smooth you want it to do, is how much water you put it in. I mean, if you like those rough cracks on it, that's cool. If you want to smooth it out, go for it. There you go. And that's as far as I'm going to go to just show you the basics of it. And I'm probably going to keep working this. And like I said, then I'm going to let it air dry, and then I'm going to go ahead and paint it. And you can make whatever you want. That's the cool thing about the clay. You can make an animal, or if you're making, whatever you want to make. Whatever your creative mind leads you to do. Take your time with it and play around with it. That's the cool thing about clay. There's so many things you can do with it. And have to make something and let me know what you made. Hope it turns out great. And thank you so much for watching me today.